I think that I've probably had two moments in my life where I've always had a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, stuff like that. There are probably two moments in my life where I really contemplate. Like, I felt like I was the suicidal impulse was strong enough that it was like it took the mic for a second. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
One of them was living in LA, and it was just nothing happening. That was one, but the other one was actually after season 1.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that getting done with season 1 and kind of the duality between how the show, what the show was and what this new life was, juxtaposed with how I had felt internally all those years, almost couldn't coexist. And so one of them was like, this isn't work. We're not going to make it. We're getting too close to the sun. It's not going to,
Yeah.
And so it was just this overwhelming fear. And now, and you work in therapy, you do stuff, and now it feels so much different. But like, I would perseverate over any little thing, or just people being seen or stuff like that. And now I've worked and got a lot better at it. But it was interesting to me that it was after my biggest success that was the moment where I got darkest.
Yeah, and I want to, if I can,
please
dig into that a little bit, because for me, like, I don't know. I worked hard, but I got lucky where I got back to a big job at 25, like covering my hometown team, reporting on the Bengals. It was awesome, but like, I was single, had always felt alone, dealt with depression, suicidal thoughts since I was 14. I would be like walking home drunk and be like, all right, what if I just jump off the bridge? What's going to happen? Yeah. Or like, I had to call my cousin one time because I was laying down in traffic outside of a casino. Like, oh my God. Like, do you specifically remember nights of, I don't know if you're a big drinker like I used to be, where you were super drunk and had these thoughts of like, all right, it's just not going to happen. What, does it even matter? Like,
yeah, those were the moments. So it wasn't, funnily enough, neither of them were around nights, but there were moments of like feeling like a raft, like you're on this raft in the ocean.
Right.
And it's like there's no land anywhere near us. So it's like, what's really the difference?
Right.
That I think you'd have that kind of thought. When the one happened in LA, I immediately called my friend Phil. And so like, there was a protective impulse in me that was like, now we're too close.
Yeah.
Now we gotta, and just talking to a friend helped. For the other one, it was a similar thing where I caught myself where it was the impulse. It was almost like the impulse had the mic for, just to continue with that metaphor, had the mic for so long.
Yeah.
That another part of me got scared and then got really angry. And was like, I don't know what the PG ratings are, but was like, fuck you, And I went to therapy, and I my therapist gave me like a baseball bat, and I like hit a pillow for a while, and tears just started shooting out of me.
Yeah.
But I got so angry at this part of me that I think on some level was saying I was such a failure, and that if I didn't succeed, it wasn't worth. I didn't deserve the life.
Yeah.
Because I had fallen so low under expectations, or if I hadn't, I was about to. But yeah, I remember viscerally the feeling of like that argument, that part of me was suddenly getting the stage so much that another part of me got so angry.
Right. Was that in LA, or is that after season
here?
1?
I was sitting on this floor over here, laying down on the floor.
After your first season shot,
after season
you got the
1,
biggest job that you've ever.
It was. I mean, honestly, it was probably almost a year ago.
Wow.
To maybe like this week or next week, right around that point. Yeah.
And what made you snap out of it? I mean, like that. You talking about going to therapy? I have the visual because I'm a very visual person of you bawling, hitting a pillow with a baseball bat. Of like, because I've been there. I mean, like people that haven't been in those spaces don't understand. People that are listening or watching that have, they do. Of like, why the fuck do I feel like this?
Yeah. Yes.
It's you can't answer the question. Like you have.
Well, it's also a feeling because feelings aren't. First of all, they're not facts, so they're not rational.
Right.
But they have a real, like, if you are in a position where you're not sure what's real, what's true, if you're in the right path, if you're doing the right thing, a feeling, you never really question the reality or the truth of a feeling.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the feeling shows up and says, well, this is real. And so whether it's based on a reality or not is irrelevant. It just in its very essence of affecting how you feel.
Right.
It is real. So it's you have to almost have that. Luckily for me, my brain caught me the first time, and for the second time, I'd like to think that it was another feeling that popped up, like self-parts type thing that was like, fuck this guy. No, this guy doesn't deserve the microphone anymore. Now, I think also a lot in therapy, I would have therapists, I'd have acting coaches who would say, Larry Moss would say this to me, treat yourself like you are your own son. And so that language had gotten like embedded in my head. And I think on some level, when that voice got big enough, the part of me that got mad was the part that was like, leave the fucking kid alone.
Right.
You know, and was like, I worked too hard for us to not be here.
Right. Go
I
do
think
this.
that was, yeah.
And I think for me, one of the biggest things I try to preach to people is that, and I'm not a therapist, not a doctor, not a mental health professional, but those feelings are just temporary. Like that's the crazy part for me is I look back at where I can't believe that's where I was sleeping till 2, like as late as I wanted to go into the studio or go to practice, whatever it was. And then like, I just can't believe I was at that spot where I was suicidal every single day. You mentioned about it being a year ago, having that moment on this floor in your apartment. I checked into a mental health hospital last April. So like literally a year. And it's just crazy to look back on those moments and see how you can grow yourself.
Yeah, and what you just said, this is, and they're cyclical. Like, it's not that they won't ever come back,
right?
But when they come back, if you take the space to work on yourself, suddenly you start to see them 360, right?
Yes.
So it's like it doesn't overwhelm you. You're like, oh, there you are again.
Yeah, it's not that.
This is not our first date. I've met you before. I know how you work.
Right.
And I may feel you right now, but I can also feel my leg, and my leg is not feeling you right now. Or I can also feel like my whole body is not in the part of me that I'm feeling this thing. There's more than just the feeling when it shows up.